Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So if you're new here, I'm also pretty new channel here. I talk about personal finance, and today I'm going to be talking about how much it costs to live as a solo person in London. So obviously I'm Irish, that's what this accent is. I've lived in the UK for more than 10 years now, and there are a lot of different bills that you pay here in the UK that are different from back home in Ireland. So I wanted to make this video for anyone who's going to be new to London, for anyone who's planning to move to the UK, just to go through what these bills will be. So firstly, let's start off with the most obvious one, your rent. So if you're moving to London, you most obviously will be renting either, a house share, so it would be a room in a flat or house, or it would be, if you're very lucky, to rent a studio flat or a one-bedroom flat. So those will obviously be way more expensive, but I'll talk through what the costs are at the moment on average. So to rent on average up to 2024 on spareroom.com, which is the main website that people rent a room from in London and the UK, the average at the minute is £983 just for a room. So that is obviously incredibly expensive, and a lot of the times bills are added on top of those costs. So first of all, the average rent that you'll pay is £983 for a room. Now, obviously, if you go out further in London, so London tends to be split up into zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So zone 6 is like the furthermost parts from the centre of London, but you're still in London, versus zone 1 will be obviously the places that you know most, where London Eye is, London Bridge is, the centre of London. So usually, for example, in Kensington, which is in the centre, which is a very fancy area of London, the average room to rent there would tend to be about £1,500. Whereas if you go out to like zone 6, it might be £700, for example. You just have to really weigh up where you want to be. If you're on the outskirts of London, you'll obviously be paying for travel a lot more. So it's important to really weigh up where you want to be. I always say to people who really want to move to London to try and stay within zone 3, so zone 1, 2 or 3, because a lot of the times, the fun places, the bars, the cafes, the younger people tend to be in those zones. And also you'll spend less time on tubes, hopefully less tube journeys as well, so potentially less money spent there. So really have a look and try and understand the areas. If you're interested about London more, I can do another video on which zones are best to buy in and which boroughs are least expensive, because depending on which borough you're in, you could pay actually more bills, which is crazy. So yeah, in terms of rent, £983 is the average price to rent a room. If you want a one-bedroom flat, it tends to be between £1,300 to £2,000 just for your rent of a one-bedroom flat in London at the minute. So incredibly expensive. So the best option is, of course, to share a house or a flat with other people to split the costs. So the next bill I want to talk about are utilities when you are renting a flat or a house here in London. So obviously they tend to be electricity or gas. Now, not every apartment or house will have gas. A lot of the time it's mainly just electric. But for me personally, I spend around £70 a month on both my electricity and gas. Obviously, if you're sharing a flat with someone and you've got 3 other housemates, that £80 or £70 will be split between 4 people, so it will be a lot less. So it could be, £20 a month, for example, depending on how many people you live with. The next charge that's a bit of a killer, and that we don't pay this in Ireland, so I'm always really surprised at how expensive this is, but we pay for water over here. Now, I'm in a one-bedroom flat by myself, and I pay £44 a month for water. And this is basically, I don't have a water meter in my building. Because of the design of and age of the building, they can't fit one. So this is an estimated amount that I get charged every month, which I think is so expensive because I'm really good with water. I don't take long showers, I don't really take baths, and I'm still paying a crazy amount for water. Obviously, if you are renting, it roughly tends to be about like £10 each if you're living with 4 people, let's say, which a lot of the time they will have water meters in like bigger buildings or bigger flats. So the less water you use, the less water bills you'll be charged. But, just bear in mind, if you're in an older building, sometimes they just give you this flat estimate, which can be a bit costly. Another big killer of a bill is council tax. So this might be a completely new concept to you if you're moving from abroad to the UK or to London specifically. But council tax is something they have here, and it's basically something everyone pays and it goes towards maintaining the roads, you know, collecting rubbish. It can go towards like supporting libraries or supporting like benefits for like adult social care, things like that. So it is a really important thing, but it can be quite costly. For example, for myself, I pay £110 a month for the borough that I'm in. But if you're in different boroughs, for example, my friend lives in a borough south of the river and she pays £300 a month, which is incredibly expensive. So the good thing about this though is if you're moving to London as a full-time student, you don't have to pay council tax at all. It's a great exemption that they have. If you're a full-time student, you pay £0 in council tax every month. But if you are coming to London to, you know, start your very first job, you will of course have to pay council tax. The one benefit is if you do decide to live alone and, you know, get into a studio apartment, for example, and you're living alone, you do get a 25% discount, which is a single person discount for council tax. So have a bit of a think. Council tax also, you know, if you're living in a house, it's not a price per person, it would be divided up again. So if the council tax for that house is £100 and there's 4 people there, each person pays £25. So it will be a bit of an easier pill to swallow. So if you are renting a room in a house or a flat, it's really important to have contents insurance. Also if you're living alone, but I think even more so if you're living with potentially strangers that you've never met before or have just met recently. So contents insurance is basically insurance on your belongings. So if you've got any, you know, expensive jewelry or sentimental jewelry from family, or, you know, you might have an expensive laptop or phone, you know, a lot of the times the flats and houses don't have locks on the doors for the bedrooms. So it's important to have contents insurance. I know that's very, you know, negative thinking, but you never really know who you're living with, or you never really know who could break into a house. So it's important to have contents insurance. Or of course, if anything gets damaged, you know, a lot of the rental properties in London are older properties. You know, London is a pretty old place, especially if you want like a period style house. They could be older than that. So it's important to have contents insurance to look after your belongings. And I pay £15 a month for my contents insurance. So they're pretty reasonably priced. I mean, you can definitely get them cheaper depending on what you want covered, but this is something I think renters in particular should definitely have. So another bill that we all have to pay here in the UK and in Ireland is a TV license. So if you have a TV and you are watching the channels here, or even if you have a laptop and you watch any of like the BBC iPlayers, the Channel 4 streaming services, you have to pay a TV license. At the moment, I pay £15 a month, 15 a month, which again is quite a lot. I don't tend to watch many streaming services. I mainly watch Netflix and, you know, Amazon, which don't count. So if you're mainly just on your subscriptions, you don't have to pay a TV license. So have a bit of a think. I think I might try and cancel mine if I can, because I don't actually watch TV, and £15, you know, could be used elsewhere. So that was a roundup of all of the costs that you would pay if you were to move to London or any part of the UK. These are all the bills that I pay, and I hopefully giving, you know, exact prices has helped you guys. There's also more costs if you were to buy a property outright, which is what I've done recently. And I've done a video on, you know, leasehold properties in London, in the UK. If you're curious about that down the line, it's a really good goal to try and save to buy a property, especially as the rental prices in the UK, in London, are very high. But if, of course, you're moving to a country for the first time, renting is a great option. Spareroom.com is a great website. Zoopla and Rightmove are also great as well to find, you know, spare rooms and house shares, or to find a studio apartment or a 1-bedroom flat if you're very, you know, flashy and have the cash to do that. I do want to say that, of course, the salaries in London can be higher. So yes, these costs are very expensive, but your salary might be higher as well than what you initially thought before you move here. So definitely have a look and do your research, but hopefully this has helped you guys have a bit of an insight as to what it could be like living in London. So thanks guys. If you are a fan of learning about personal finance, or maybe London as a whole, you know, I post videos twice a week. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, please subscribe. I'm incredibly new. That'd be super helpful. But thanks guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.